For my mom's birthday, I gave her a used Lexus. He stared at it like it was roadkill. You couldn't even afford new? My aunt leaned close to her, whispering loud enough for me to hear. Pathetic. My name is Elena Ward, I'm 29. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What do you give a woman who measures love in receipts? The air outside the restaurant was sharp with winter. Balloons tugged against the icy wind, one popping behind us like punctuation. Mom's diamond earrings glinted when she rolled her eyes toward my brother. Your sister always aims low, she said. He laughed because that's what he always did. Laugh when she mocked me so her gaze never turned on him. I watched their reflections in the car's tinted window. Her pearls, his smirk, my clenched jaw. The Lexus sat between us like a line in the sand. Inside, my aunt was already filming on her phone. Say cheese, Miss Independent, she sneered. Show the world how generosity looks on a budget. I smiled. Quiet. The kind of quiet that carries weight. I took back the keys, their silver tag flashing under the yellow streetlight, and said, Guess it doesn't belong to the family then. The silence that followed had gravity. I slipped into the driver's seat. The leather was still warm from detaillers, the faint scent of citrus polish filling the air, that sharp human smell that sticks to you. The rearview mirror caught my eyes, trembling for half a second before I steadied them. Then I drove off. No music. Just the hum of tires slicing through the night. When I reached my apartment, the old elevator groaned like it shared my exhaustion. I parked the car in the reserved slot, the one with her name still faintly painted over mine from years ago, and stood there under the flickering fluorescent light. For years I'd chased her approval like sunlight through blinds. But tonight I felt something colder, clearer. On my kitchen counter, the birthday envelope still lay open. Her card had said, Don't embarrass us this year. I laughed softly, the sound cracking. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her disgusted glance, heard my aunt's whisper. The sound looped until dawn. That's when the first vibration hit. My phone. Then another. And another. By 8 a.m. the screen glowed with 32 missed calls. Aunt Grace. My brother. Even Dad, who usually only texted money transfer receipts. I rubbed my eyes, half asleep, half numb. Outside, the light through the blinds looked softer than usual, like the world had exhaled. Another call. Then a message. Elena, please. Call back. We didn't know. Undo it. Undo what? The doorbell rang next. Short, frantic bursts. I wrapped my robe tighter, heart pounding with that dull ache of anticipation. Through the peephole I saw my brother pacing the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. He turned toward the door, mouth moving fast. Mom's losing it, he said. You can't just. He stopped when I opened it. His expression shifted. Guilt, confusion, fear? On the floor between us, sunlight hit the apartment number plaque. 407. The brass reflected our faces back at us, distorted. Mine calm, his unraveling. What happened? I asked. He swallowed. You really didn't check the title, did you? I frowned. The title of what? He blinked hard. That car wasn't used. It was hers. And the hallway fell into a silence so complete I could hear the hum of the light fixture above us. A long electric sigh that sounded almost like fate breathing in. He stood there, chest rising, breath fogging in the chilly hallway. That car wasn't used. It was hers. For how long? My voice came out steady. I tightened my robe, the belt not digging into my ribs. He pushed a palm over his hair. A nervous tell he'd had since he was 12, cowlick fighting back. Since last week. Titles filed in Mom's name. You signed the transfer at the dealership. I didn't sign any transfer. The word sign thudded between us like a dropped wrench. He glanced at the brass 407 plaque as if the numbers could help him. Look, just bring the Lexus back. We'll fix it. Nobody needs to know. Know what? He swallowed. There's paperwork. Just undo it. Please. 2 more vibrations rattled from my kitchen counter. I glanced back at the phone, lighting the dark like a heartbeat monitor. Another text pinged, then a voicemail bubble popped up. Elena, sweetie, Mom's voice lacquered with sugar and panic. There's been the tiniest mix-up. Be a good girl and drive the car to the house. We'll handle the details. Love you. I stared at my brother. A mix-up. He tried for a laugh and missed. It's not a big deal. That was the first decoy of the day. Not a big deal always meant cathedral-sized problem. I set my palm on the doorframe. The wood felt cool under my fingertips, a pulse running through the building. When you said title, what did you mean exactly? He exhaled. Mom said you authorized the dealer to title the car to her. She showed a signed POA. With your signature. My mouth went dry. In the quiet, the fluorescent ballast above us hummed, a thread of sound I couldn't stop hearing. Where did she get a power of attorney with my signature? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I stepped back, motioning him inside. He hovered on the threshold, then shook his head like the line of tile was a border. I'm not, I just came to tell you. He lifted his phone. Please. Before she calls the police. For what? I asked. He hesitated. Unauthorized use. I laughed once, soft and mean. Of her car gifted by me? He winced and backed away. The door swung gently on its hinges. The thin line of light from the hallway cut across my floor like a blade. After he left, the door clicked shut. Our motif, the door, no louder than a whisper. Shock, anger. I put on jeans, a sweater with one loose thread at the cuff I've worried since college, and my boots. The sweater smelled faintly like last night's citrus polish from the Lexus. I could still feel the tacky residue on my fingers. I grabbed my keys. At the curb, the Lexus looked even more expensive in daylight, the paint swallowing the morning sun. I slid in, closed the door, and let the silence wrap me. The glove box stuck halfway. When it gave, a small paper cut kissed my knuckle. Human detail, right there. A thin sting that made my eyes water more than the moment deserved. Inside lay the manual, a packet of registration sleeves, and a manila envelope. On the tab, in a neat block hand I knew too well. Pew, Elena Ward. My stomach tightened. I opened it with my thumb, careful not to smear anything. Out slid copies. A power of attorney dated 2 months ago, a notary stamp from a strip mall I recognized, and a signature that looked like mine, except the R in Ward looped into a curlicue I've never ever made. I snapped a photo. Then another. My phone camera shutter clicked like a metronome. The photograph motif took its first breath. Second decoy arrived as a text from Aunt Grace. Honey, your mom is having a panic attack. Bring the car and we'll reimburse you in full. We'll even post a thank you video. Family before paperwork, right? Family before paperwork. Right. I drove to the dealership. The finance office smelled like burnt coffee and carpet cleaner. A muted TV played a daytime courtroom show. The judge's gavel thumped without sound. The sales manager, slick hair tied too tight, greeted me with the smile of a man who thinks charm is currency. Elena. Morning. His eyes flicked to the file under my arm. We're getting calls. Let's, clear the air. Start with the power of attorney, I said. He motioned me into a glass box office. Light fractured across us from the blinds, zebra striping the desk. He slid a folder over, and there it was again. My signature in that unfamiliar flourish, a notary seal, and a copy of my driver's license. Except the address was wrong 2 apartments ago. Who presented this? I asked. Your mother, he said slowly. And yesterday. I held his gaze. Roll the security footage. He tapped a keyboard. The screen bloomed with yesterday's feed. The showroom doors opening, winter lights spilling in, a woman in a cream coat, pearls flashing, and my breath stopped, me stepping up beside her. Except the me on screen wore my face and not my walk. The wristwatch was on the wrong hand. The door swung on the playback, the frame freezing a beat on a forged smile. Pause, I whispered, leaning closer as the light on the glass stuttered. Because just then the camera caught a reflection in the glass door. A second angle. And in that reflection the woman who wasn't me turned her head. And I knew exactly who it was. Her hair was darker in the reflection, cropped shorter, but the tilt of her chin was unmistakable. Aunt Grace. She'd always said we looked similar enough to share a driver's license. I used to laugh at that joke. Now it felt like prophecy. The sales manager's voice pulled me back. Ms. Ward? Do you want me to stop the playback? I straightened. No. Keep it running. On screen, Grace as me signed the papers with my forged curl of an R, accepted the keys and turned toward the camera, smiling directly into it as if daring me to notice. Behind her, Mom stood just out of frame, adjusting a pearl earring. The symbolic motif, the door, appeared again when they exited. A slow, elegant swing closed behind them, cutting the light in half. I whispered, "Can you email me that footage?" The manager hesitated. "Technically it's internal." I slid my business card across the desk. Proof of employment at a firm that specialized in corporate compliance and fraud mitigation. His eyebrows rose. "Give me 10 minutes. While he prepped the file, I stepped outside. Wind bit through my sweater. Exhaust from a nearby detail bay burned my throat. The city always smelled like someone else's mistakes. A bus hissed to a stop. In its windows I caught my own reflection. Tired eyes, smudged eyeliner, resilience disguised as calm. Shock, anger, strife. I could almost feel the emotional graph shifting inside me. Back home, I uploaded the footage to my laptop. The screen's glow spilled across the countertop like morning milk. I paused on the frame of Grace's face. Zoomed. Her gold bracelet flashed. Mom's birthday gift from last year. I opened a new tab and began drafting an email. Not to them, not yet, but to the dealership's corporate legal office. Subject: fraudulent power of attorney, immediate hold request. My fingers hovered. A tiny tremor of conscience. This would explode the family chat, maybe even Mom's Perfect Family Women of the South Facebook page. Then I remembered her words. "You couldn't even afford new." The computer chimed, small and final. Minutes later, a reply. Acknowledged. Transaction placed on investigative hold. Vehicle title frozen pending verification. The first domino fell with a digital ping. By late afternoon, my phone began its encore symphony of notifications. Texts poured in. "Mom, Grace, my brother." "What did you do?" "They froze the account." "Grace, you think you're clever? The internet forgets nothing, sweetheart." "Brother, you just humiliated the entire family." I typed nothing back. The apartment was quiet except for the faint buzz of the refrigerator, the soundtrack of small solitudes. At dusk, another knock. Not frantic, measured. I peered through the peephole and saw a courier holding an envelope. Registered mail. I signed for it, palms damp, and tore the seal. Inside, a cease and desist notice. Mom's attorney threatening civil action for defamation, theft, and emotional distress. The irony almost made me laugh. But what caught my eye was the footer. Filed by Grace Law Consulting LLC. She'd started her own side business, apparently one signature at a time. I placed the papers beside the glowing photograph on my screen. Grace frozen mid-smile. The door motif glimmered behind her again, frozen open just a crack. Thought formed. Quiet, steady, inevitable. If they loved appearances so much, maybe justice needed an audience. I reached for my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't used in months. An investigative journalist I'd once helped with a tax fraud case. When she answered, her voice was brisk. "Elena. Been a while." I took a breath, steadying the tremor in my hand. "I have a story about forged signatures, a luxury car, and a family that worships optics." Silence on the line. Then, "I'm listening." Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far off, the city's slow drumbeat of reckoning beginning to build. The next morning smelled like burnt toast and rain. I sat at my kitchen counter, laptop open, heart pacing between dread and defiance. The journalist, Renee Carver, had already texted. "Need verification, timestamps, and motive." "Meet." I typed back. "Give me 2 hours." My apartment felt smaller that morning, every hum and creak louder. The symbolic door, the one I'd slammed on my family the night before, stared at me from across the room, half lit by a sliver of gray daylight. I packed the evidence. Dealership footage, forged POA, the lawyer's letter. Then, impulsively, I added something else. An old photograph of Mom, Grace, and me at the dealership ribbon cutting years ago. We were laughing, arms around each other. The door of a shiny new showroom behind us shimmered open. The motif again, doors that always seemed to close on me later. By noon, I met Renee at a cafe that smelled of espresso and printer ink. She was the kind of woman who looked at you like a puzzle she'd already half solved. "You sure you want this public?" she asked, flipping through screenshots. "Once I run this, there's no going back." "I want sunlight," I said. "And names." She nodded, the corner of her mouth curving with professional hunger. "I'll start with document verification. You'll be quoted as source close to the matter, until you confirm on record." "Fine," I said. My voice didn't even tremble. As we spoke, the cafe door opened twice. The first was just a delivery man. The second made me freeze. Her cream coat looked out of place among the denim and laptops. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on me. Renee turned slightly, recognizing a headline in human form. "Elena," Mom said smoothly, as if the world wasn't cracking under her heels. "Can we talk outside?" Renee's eyebrow rose. I gave a small nod. "Go ahead, record this," and followed Mom onto the wet sidewalk. "You're making a spectacle," she hissed. "After everything I've done for you." "You forged my signature," I said evenly. "You let Grace impersonate me." She blinked fast, lashes wet from drizzle or denial. "It was Grace's idea. She said you'd never mind, that you'd want me to have it. Grace can't forge federal paperwork without your blessing. She only wanted to help. You know how your generosity looks. People talk. So you stole to protect your image?" I cut in. "Sounds like the family brand." A car honked. A woman with a stroller passed between us, the smell of baby powder briefly softening the air. When the noise faded, Mom whispered, "You'll regret this. You always overreact." There was her favorite decoy: overreaction. Translation: truth she can't afford to face. I leaned closer. "I don't want your apology. I want accountability." She flinched like the word itself stung. "You're humiliating us." "No, Mom," I said quietly. "You did that all by yourself." Her jaw tightened. For the first time in my life, she didn't have a comeback. Just silence. Thick, heavy, almost holy. When she turned to leave, she hesitated at the cafe door, fingers hovering over the handle. I caught her reflection in the glass. Pearls dull in the gray light, mouth trembling. For a heartbeat, she looked like a woman realizing the door wasn't opening for her anymore. Back inside, Renee murmured, "That was cinematic." I exhaled, hands shaking. "Make sure it's accurate." By evening, she texted again. "Corporate legal confirmed fraud. Dealership cooperating. Story runs Monday." I looked at the photograph I'd brought, the old one of us smiling in front of the open door, and turned it over. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, were the words, "Family means loyalty." I whispered, maybe it should have meant truth. Outside my window, thunder cracked again, louder, closer this time. By Monday morning, the storm had turned literal. Rain carved gray streaks down my windows, thunder mumbling in the distance like an impatient judge. At 6:17 a.m., my phone lit up. Breaking news alert. Local socialite under investigation for power of attorney fraud. The thumbnail photo was unmistakable. Mom in pearls, Grace beside her, both mid-blink under harsh fluorescent lighting. The headline didn't mention me by name, but it didn't have to. Everyone in town knew who bought that Lexus. Within an hour, the family chat exploded. "My brother. You couldn't just talk to us?" "Grace. I hope you're happy." "She's shaking, Elena." "Well, fix this. You always had a talent for cleaning up your messes." Their words blurred together, all smoke and guilt. I didn't respond. Instead, I scrolled to Renee's text. "Story live. Public records attached. You're clear. Documents show forgery, false notary, and dealership cooperation. You want to go on record?" I typed back, "Not yet." Because the point wasn't to gloat. It was to watch them face the mirror. The door motif found me again that morning. Literally. I heard knocking around 10. Through the peephole. Dead. He hadn't been to my apartment since my college graduation. When I opened the door, he looked older than I remembered, rain dampening his gray hair. "Elena, your mother's losing it. She says you've ruined her life." I stepped aside silently, letting him in. He smelled faintly of aftershave and rainwater, that oddly comforting mix from childhood. "She's angry," he continued, pacing. "But Grace was the one who planned it. Your mom, she just didn't stop it." "That's called complicity," I said softly. He sighed. "She's not a bad person." I tilted my head. "Would you say that if it were me who forged her signature?" He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the photograph on my counter, the one I'd kept flipped over. He picked it up, studied it, then turned it right side up again. "She used to love this picture," he murmured. "She used to love pretending," I corrected. He set it down carefully, eyes heavy. "You've made your point, honey. Maybe now you can let it go." The sentence hung there like a tired balloon. "Let it go." I smiled, slow and sad. "You know what the difference is between forgiveness and erasure, Dad?" He waited. One heals the wound. The other covers it with wallpaper and hopes no one visits. He rubbed his temple. She'll lose everything if this sticks. I folded my arms. Then she'll learn what losing feels like. He looked at me, really looked. You sound just like her right now. That one landed harder than I expected. After he left, the apartment felt too quiet. The door shut behind him with a hollow thud that echoed through the walls. I sat at my table, fingers tracing the edge of the envelope containing her cease and desist letter. My reflection in the window blurred against the stormlight. Half me, half the girl who used to beg for approval. The phone buzzed again. Renee. The dealership's general counsel wants to meet. They've got something you'll want to see. I texted back. When? Now. Bring ID. The thunder cracked louder like punctuation. As I grabbed my coat and keys, my eyes caught the door one more time. My evolving motif. Yesterday it was a symbol of escape. Today it looked like an invitation. And somewhere deep in my chest, under the hurt, I felt something sharper than anger. Purpose. The dealership looked different under rain light. Muted, half-washed, its chrome surfaces dulled to pewter. Inside, the air smelled of wet carpet and burnt coffee again. The receptionist's smile twitched when she saw me. News travels faster than courtesy. Renee was already there, umbrella dripping against her chair leg. He waved me over. They're waiting upstairs. Corporate counsel and regional manager. This might get interesting. We took the elevator. Its mirrored walls reflected us in fragments. Two women divided by purpose. One seeking a story, one seeking closure. The door dinged open on the third floor. A man in a navy suit extended his hand. Ms. Ward, I'm James Lowell, counsel for Fairview Lexus. His handshake was dry, firm. We appreciate your cooperation. Renee clicked her pen, recording. You said you had new evidence? Lowell gestured to a screen. Security footage from our off-site archive. Your mother's attorney attempted to delete it Friday night. The video began. The same cream coat, pearls, and that unmistakable Grace as me smile. But now there was sound. Just process it fast, Grace's voice said. My niece gets anxious when money's involved. Then Mom's tone, clipped, chilly. Make sure it's titled before midnight. We'll send her flowers later. The sound of a printer starting filled the room. Then over paper noise, Mom whispered, she owes me this. For everything. I felt my throat tighten. She owes me this. The words thudded like a verdict. Lowell paused the video. We're preparing a statement confirming internal fraud and notifying state investigators. But there's something else. He handed me a sealed envelope. It's from your mother. My heart stumbled. She gave it to you? Saturday morning. She asked us to deliver it if you came. Renee's brows lifted, but I motioned for her to wait. I opened the flap. Inside, no apology, no explanation, just a handwritten letter on expensive stationery. Elena. Families stumble. We protect ours from the world even when it hurts. I'm sorry it reached this point. If you release that video, everything your grandparents built will vanish. Be smarter than this. Love, Mom. I stared at the looping signature, ink a little smeared at the curve of the M. My thumb brushed it unconsciously, smudging it further. She calls that love, I murmured. Renee leaned in. You realize this letter alone proves intent to conceal? Lowell nodded. We'll keep copies. But we need your consent to submit the footage to the DA's office. I looked at the door, the motif again, leading back into the hallway. It gleamed with a strip of light halfway open. Every story I'd ever lived seemed to happen between open and closed doors. I consent, I said. Lowell extended a form. My signature, the real one this time, felt heavier than ink. The pen tip scraped slightly. My hand trembled, leaving a faint blot. An AI bait breaker detail. A human imperfection machines would never replicate. When we stepped outside, the storm had passed. Puddles mirrored gray clouds and street signs. Renee folded her umbrella. They'll arrest Grace first. Your mom will try to frame it as confusion. You okay with that? I nodded. Let truth walk through her own front door for once. Renee smiled faintly. That's a headline. As she left, I lingered by my car. The Lexus still gleamed beneath its thin film of rain, patient, waiting. I touched the hood lightly. The metal was cool, forgiving. I whispered, you were supposed to be a gift. Inside the reflection of the windshield, my face looked older, steadier. For the first time I realized, the door wasn't the symbol anymore. The reflection was. By Thursday morning, headlines had evolved from gossip to outrage. Forgery scandal. Grace under arrest. Socialite sister cooperating with investigators. The photo beneath it wasn't Grace or Mom. It was me. Walking out of the dealership, rain-slick hair, eyes forward, mouth unreadable. The irony wasn't lost on me. The daughter who'd been called pathetic now carried the face of justice they couldn't control. Renee texted before dawn. "You're trending. You okay?" I wasn't sure. My hands were steady, but my pulse had the rhythm of a hummingbird. The reflection motif haunted every screen I looked at. The mirror in my hallway, the window beside my desk, the shiny back of my phone. Each caught flashes of a woman I half recognized. Stronger, yes. But lonelier. Then around noon another message arrived. This time from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's urgent. Come alone." Attached. A photo of Mom sitting in a car outside my apartment building. The door again. Always the door. I hesitated, then grabbed my coat. When I stepped outside, the air smelled like exhaust and lilac perfume, hers. The Lexus was parked at the curb, the passenger window lowering slowly, mechanically, like a curtain call. "Elena," she said. Her voice had lost its varnish. "Get in." I did. For the first time, the car felt smaller than I remembered, like guilt had stolen its oxygen. "They froze my accounts," she started. "The house, the foundation, everything." Grace confessed, "But she said you orchestrated it." I turned toward her. "Does that sound like me?" She exhaled. "No. But people will believe what they read. They always do. Maybe because you taught them image matters more than truth." She flinched. Outside, the windshield wipers beat like a clock counting down. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," she said softly. "I'm asking you to fix this for the family name." There was the third decoy. For the family. Always code for her. I leaned back, eyes tracing the raindrops streaking across the windshield. "Do you know what that dealership footage sounded like, Mom? You saying I owed you." Her lips pressed tight. "You do. I gave you everything. You gave me a checklist to earn affection." She looked down, pearls trembling at her throat. "You don't understand. In our world." "I understand perfectly," I interrupted. "But maybe your world needs to end." Silence filled the car, heavy, humid. Somewhere in that stillness, a truth settled between us. The reflection had shifted again. She wasn't the woman I'd been chasing approval from. She was just human, fragile, fearful, and caught in her own mirror. Finally, she whispered, "So what happens now?" I reached for the glove compartment and pulled out the same manila envelope that had once held the fake documents. I'd replaced its contents with something else. A notarized statement, verified, sealed. "This," I said, sliding it toward her, "is my affidavit for the deed. Clears me. But it also includes a line, that you were misled by Grace, coerced, and not of sound judgment when you signed." Her eyes widened. "You'd do that? For you?" "No," I said calmly. "For me. Because I don't need revenge. I need peace." Tears welled, but she blinked them back. "Then you win," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, Mom. We both just stop losing." I opened the car door, the motif in motion one last time. Rain light spilled in, silver and forgiving. Behind me, I heard her whisper something faint. Maybe thank you, maybe I'm sorry. I didn't turn around. Outside, I walked toward my apartment, each step softer than the one before. In my reflection on the lobby glass, I saw a woman who'd finally stopped asking to be seen. The story aired one last time that evening, not as scandal but as resolution. The anchor's voice was calm. Authorities confirmed charges dropped against Elena Ward. Grace Warren faces trial for fraud and impersonation. Sources say the victim declined restitution. I stood by my window, the city washed clean after the storm. Down below, the Lexus gleamed beneath a streetlight, now legally mine again, though it no longer mattered. The photograph sat on my counter, the one from years ago with all three of us smiling. I flipped it over one last time, traced the handwriting on the back. "Family means loyalty." I whispered, "Maybe it means learning to close the door." In the silence, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. I watched the news. "I'm trying." I typed nothing back. Just placed the phone face down beside the envelope that had once held her lies. Outside, a child laughed and somewhere a door clicked shut. Soft, final, like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. For the first time I didn't feel angry. Just light. And as rain began again, quiet and clean, I whispered the only word that fit.